Alrighty, welcome back to the RLR podcast. My name is Nick. That is Matt. It is
Yo,
June 6th,
is
2021.
it already?
I know, it's June. It's shocking, actually.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
this is
be
our first
May,
episode in
May,
June.
May. Oh wait, it's past May. Darn, I missed my chance.
Oh, well. Anyway. Okay. We,
Sorry, I got us off.
yeah, you completely, I don't know why that
Well,
completely derailed me,
we
but,
have. Well, and then let me get back on track here because I totally went AWOL there. Let's get back on track. We're gonna start with rolling start today. We are going to do a little bit of down the jetway. Got a couple things. One of those more a PSA. We do have something for wet and wild, so we'll have some fun transitions for those. But today, as those who may have seen the race in Baku today, I think this episode is going to revolve quite heavily around only F1 and the race today, because boy, was it an interesting race weekend.
so, yeah,
So,
we'll we'll let you know when we're done with the normal news stuff that we normally cover and get into the
mhm,
F1 because I have a feeling that that is going to be a long topic for
yes.
us today.
And with that, let's shift back on down in the first gear and start with rolling start.
Yes.
Only a couple things over the past week. Did you see there's a lawsuit for GM? They're being sued over destination charges.
I did see that. Why don't you fill me in on the specific details here?
Yeah, there was a jalopnik article written by Lawrence Hodge on Thursday caught my eye. Well, frankly, because of the headline, but you know, oh, sorry, something was beeping at me over there. So apparently, long story short, there is a Cala. I won't give names if you want to go read. That you can go to the article. But a California plaintiff in the Southern District of California has filed a suit alleging that GM makes a profit off of their destination charges and they deceive their quote GM deceives customers into paying far more than actual cost of vehicle delivery. So apparently it's all about a grand or two. But what happened was the California plaintiff paid about $1,200 US dollars on a destination charge for his 2021 Chevy Equinox, and a New Jersey plaintiff who I think has joined this suit paid 995 US dollars for a destination charge on a 2019 Cadillac Escalade. Very different cars. And essentially, the suit is alleging that, not only do they deceive their customers, but they profit off of these because different people in different states with the same cars or different, actual distances for delivery get, or even the same, apparently get charged different amounts. So, I mean, I get the logic here about it, and it's a little confusing if you ask me the way the article is written, but I get what they're going after. They don't want to be deceived with, the plaintiff that is, with the destination charges. And I agree. I've always thought that, the destination, if they aren't already, how can you prove that they're not technically? But, the destination charges should be nothing more than quite literally freighting a car to you. Now, a more expensive car might need, a higher quality service to deliver said car. I have personally seen the difference between when you ship a car, a luxury sports car across country in, shall we say, a cheaper company versus one that's more expensive. I'm surprised with the cheaper company that we didn't have damage and scratches and a car broken half by the time it got there, seeing the truck it pulled up in. So there's something to that. But when it comes to cars, the destination charges should be only that. It's just a freight to get it to one place or another. And it seems like, GM is just charging whatever the hell they want. Destination charges are going up across the industry. No one really knows why. But it also sounds like automakers across the board aren't really doing anything to combat it. So, it's I would just say that read the article, get your own opinions. I'm if in fact GM is making profits off of destination charges, shame on them and cut that crap out, bar none. And yeah, I guess when you go buy a car, ladies and germs, ladies and gents, ladies and foot, whatever I'm trying to think of something snappy, but I can't. Just please do your research. Figure out, and make sure you know all of the costs that you are going to be assuming for your new lease or your new purchase. Because it's not just the sticker price on the show floor. There are lot more stuff that goes into it. So those are all my thoughts on the subject.
I gotcha. So yeah, I would just mimic your sentiment. Just do your research. Make sure that you're getting what you're paying for and not overpaying
I mean,
for.
it's interesting now too. Maybe not getting off the topic here. Something else I just thought of. You know, because of the chip issues that we seem to talk about every week, not intentionally, but just a new thing comes about from it. I think because there's not as many new cars obviously being made because of these shortages, and those are already the ones that are being made are already expensive, even more expensive than usual. I think we're also seeing a huge increase in the price of used cars here in this, at least in the states, for the same reason. Where there's there was a news article or a news piece of camera done on our local news. I think it was a couple nights ago. I remember what's recalling in my mind was that nowadays, now this time of year, auto or dealers are used to having their back lots full of used cars, and all ready to go, cleaned and whatever. But they don't even have that much inventory for used cars, and the same, I think, like same model that would have cost you something like 17 grand last year this time, or 2 years ago before COVID, it's already something like 4 or 5 thousand US dollars more expensive, just because of the used car demand in the market, which add that to the everything else that's more expensive with gasoline or lumber or Lord knows what. We are certainly going through a very weird time.
Yeah.
Very, very strange. But it's fun to watch if you're on the sidelines. Oh man. That's all I have on that one, unless you have any comments, my good friend.
No. No. I mean,
You found
again,
a couple of things.
yeah. I did find a couple of things. We'll touch on them real quick. Um, but no. I again. I mimic everything you say. In regards to that
Yeah.
destination charge stuff. So, um, the next item that I have is the Tesla and Stellantis recalls. Um, Tesla, I believe, is recalling cars due to some door issues and some brake issues. Stellantis is recalling a lot of trucks. So it's the Ram 35,
You
45,
said
and
brake issues. That's a problem.
yeah. So it was something that was. Hold on, I'll have to pull
Brake
the.
issues? I mean,
Yeah, but
brake issues is a freaking
while
problem,
while
man.
I pull this up, I'll explain the Stellantis one. So it's the Ram 35, 45, and 5500 um, pickup trucks having issues with lug nuts on and studs on the wheels. And that if those are over tightened, they have a very they're very easy to snap. So
Mm-hmm.
um, let's see. As far as Tesla goes, oh, I'm sorry. No, it was not brakes. It was seatbelts, and that's even worse.
Oh boy.
5500 Model 3s and Model Ys. 2166 Model Ys and 5530 Model 3s. The seatbelt fasteners that secure the left and right second row may not retract properly.
Hmm.
While the
Interesting.
National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was not aware of any crashes or injuries relating to the recall, it is them stepping up and saying, hey, we need to do the right thing here. And then, okay, so I wasn't necessarily wrong. On Wednesday, they are also recalling 5,974 2019 to 2021 Model 3s and 2020 to 2021 Model Ys because of a brake caliper bolt that could loosen up and cause a loss of tire pressure. Again,
Okay.
none of these have had recorded or reported accidents with injuries. These are all preventative things that Tesla's doing on their own.
Well, I would like to say good on them for the preventative catch. but I'd rather say it shouldn't be a problem in the first place.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
It's kind of
You know,
like,
brakes are
you
kind
know,
of important.
I mean, it's kind of like anything on a car, as we see today. Even the integrity of one's tire is important. So I'd like to congratulate Tesla on good job on saving the car and not hitting any head-on traffic after your autopilot steered you across the median. That's what I feel
Yeah,
like right now. Like,
pretty much.
great, you're fixing something that really shouldn't be a problem in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. It's been
Oh
rough.
man, what a fun world.
Yeah. So, um, next quick topic. The Chicago Auto Show is back in town in July.
Ooh.
I definitely will be attending. At
I
least
mean,
for a
we
day.
will be attending.
We will be attending.
We've been
I
going. We've been going,
haven't.
except for I guess 2020. Did they?
No, we were there in 2020.
No, they had it in 20 because it was February, right?
Yeah,
We
because
went in February.
it
Yeah,
was literally days before the lockdown.
that's right. Because we went to the auto show a little bit before I went on the cruise in mid March.
Yeah, and I almost got
Yeah,
stuck in New Jersey. So
oh, that's right. So we haven't missed one ever since we've been planning stuff for RLR. We haven't missed one together, and so we'll. It does feel kind of weird. Though, I'm not gonna lie that it's in the summer.
yeah,
It's
and
great that it's back, but it
I
still feels a
know
little
there's
weird.
also going to be some limitations, being that it's Chicago.
Oh
But
yeah,
I do have advanced tickets, so we're set there.
I remember. I remember reading. I think there's. I would imagine there's probably going to be a lot of different exhibits closed. No more or probably gigantic lines. I'd imagine. I wouldn't even be surprised if you may not be able to hop inside of cars anymore with
My
strangers.
my guess is it's going to be a very different Jeep ride if they even do it.
Oh, I really hope they do.
I do too. That's one of the highlights of every
But
year.
that's a good point. I mean, vaccines and even with masks and potential of 3 feet, what is it now, social distancing or blah, blah, blah.
I
There's a heck of a lot
yeah
of stuff that I remember being at the auto shows that I don't know if it's going to fly in Chicago just out of COVID, frankly.
yeah
We'll see.
we'll definitely see
Yeah,
because we're going. But
we'll certainly let you guys know what it's like.
yeah
And then also hope that as the auto show hopefully travels to more and more states and or cities rather than not states, but also potentially countries. This year hopefully attend. Let us know, and we can see what it's like in different areas of the country or the world. So
yeah
glad it's back though. Glad to see
yeah.
some
As am
keynote
I.
events back in the city.
As am I. So finally, last thing on my list is the Ford mini truck that nobody asked for, but we're all getting instead. Um, so
Mini truck.
yeah, so
Why?
it's called the Ford Maverick. Have you seen anything about it?
No, but I'm going to go look right now as you are talking.
The official press release date is on Tuesday, in 2 days from now.
Cheap
My
compact pickup is what they're calling it.
my guess, it's going to be a Bronco pickup. That's my guess. It's going to use the Bronco platform.
It's
Um,
got it.
it had it looking. If you look at some of the pictures that they've posted already, and some of the quote
The
unquote
Maverick
spy shots.
logo, like the typeface, looks like a play on the new Broncos typeface. It's gotta be.
Yeah, but
It's gotta be.
the new Lightning typeface is also that way.
This has
So
got. But why? Like, what?
it.
Why?
I said it's the truck that nobody asked for, and Ford even said it in a cheeky way in their marketing.
What's wrong with the Ranger?
Well, technically the Ranger's a midsize. It's not a compact
Oh.
pickup.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the thing.
Splitting hairs a little there.
Yeah, I know. Well, they're going after the city market, which I understand. They're probably going to put the 1.3
No one's
liter.
gonna have a pickup in the city because in
It's
Chicago,
here's
just like the Top Gear guys said, your stuff's gonna get stolen.
okay. Yes, one, two. I don't necessarily think it's for that reason. It's not hauling stuff. I think it's literally just to say that you have a truck while you live in the city. Again, nobody
I think
asked
you're
for
right. The
it.
truck that nobody asked for.
No, the truck that
Dumb.
nobody asked for we're getting. And Ford's marketing slogan for it was, "It's the truck you never saw coming is coming on June
Because
8th."
we never asked for
And the
it.
reason we didn't see, yeah, the reason we didn't see it coming is because we didn't freaking ask for it. Nobody
Well,
needs tiny truck. If you need a smaller truck, get a Ranger, get a Colorado. If you need a full size truck, get a F-150, Ram 1500, get
or
um,
basically bigger,
Silverado, Sierra,
depending on your needs.
yeah, and then just get a heavy duty if you need the largest truck. If you need the largest truck, just buy essentially an international Durastar cab, and then put your own truck bed on the back, which is essentially what
We'll
the
see. I
F650 was.
think I think I was reading it's Tuesday. It's going to debut, right?
It is, yep,
As we're
Tuesday.
recording on Sunday. So next week, I anticipate we'll have thoughts.
Oh, we'll have thoughts. And actually, speaking of which, just as a side note, next week will be a live podcast where Matt and I are actually sitting next to each other.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
We may have something special planned for the 19th, or that weekend as well, the weekend of June 19th. But that remains to be seen. But next week will be in person with each other.
next week will be our first in person in a while.
First in person of this season, I believe.
Correct. Yep.
Because the last time we did it was the entire F1 recap, but that was last season. So looking forward to it. But
Very much so.
is that about wrap it up on Rolling Start? Switching into pick up the chalks and head.
Yep. There we go.
This is gonna be. I just have something quick, more like a PSA with down the jetways. I'm sure you saw what happened in Los Angeles, but let us all meet. Let us hang on. How do I want to? I gotta be careful how I say this. Frankly, can't say what I want to say about this. The individual at the center of this, news event, but let's all calmly take our seats in the cabin, listen to our flight attendants, and act like normal human beings after we've walked down the jetway. The reason why,
just so you know, I already made the transition slide well before you said that transition because you said pick up the chalks, and I thought that was it for this week.
Yeah, that was gonna be my transition, but then I thought I might as well sew this in there. So you weren't wrong, frankly.
Okay,
but I wanted to bring this up because I don't remember what day it was of the past week, but I'm trying to find. I think it was. I'm reading an ABC7 Chicago article from Friday, on June 4th. I don't know if that's the exact day it was from, but I assume it would be. Those who may have heard, a flight out of Los Angeles, as a passenger on a Delta Airlines flight out of Los Angeles, was arrested on Friday after, and I can't believe I would ever have to say this again after the events of 9/11 here in the States, but he was arrested Friday after he allegedly attempted to break into the plane's cockpit mid-flight. Thoughts? It's happened aboard Delta Airlines Flight 386. Hang on.
Okay.
And I think just the prior week we saw a brawl on a Southwest flight with I think both parties were a little bit in the wrong from what the research I was doing. But that said, a passenger was just assaulting a flight attendant, a female flight attendant, to the point where she was wheeled off the flight, and that subject arrested, rightfully so. And there's already the FAA and the TSA have already cited huge increases in in air, I guess, events of unruly passengers and so on, between masks and COVID and whatnot. And this just I couldn't really ignore it to not say something anymore. The fact that I still want to know why, but this guy was repeatedly shouting, "Stop this plane." There's a little clip of a video. I believe some flight attendants and even some passengers helped to essentially restrain him, zip tie him. At some point, his shoes came off. I don't know how that happened. and they meandered him to the back of the plane, and there was an emergency landing, I believe, in New Mexico for this flight that was supposed to go to Texas, I think, or no, Nashville. Sorry. So the fact that and he was taken off the plane in custody. I think he's in FBI custody now. And air traffic control is talking to the pilots, and I can't believe what that must have been like for the pilots, anyone on the plane, the flight crew. All they're there for is literally to transport us from place to place, and the flight crew's job is arguably even more important to keep everybody else safe while the pilots are doing their job to keep the aircraft safe, right? So just, I want to swear, I want to say what I really am thinking, but just walk down the jetway with your luggage. Please just sit down and listen, no matter how much you may hate having to change your mask for a 2-ply mask or the sanitation towel or blah, blah, blah. Just be respectful of other people and frankly, listen. Flying is a privilege, not a right. Treat it as such. That's all I have to say about that, frankly.
I also agree on that.
So
that being said,
something cooler than something. Let's get off this seriousness.
Yeah.
Something cooler. Concorde.
It's not the Concorde.
I know.
So United is looking into the poorly named boom planes. Why would you name a company based around airplanes Boom? Please explain this to me. First of all, I get it. It's a sonic boom, yada yada yada.
Boom?
But
hey, if they're gonna tell you what, if they're gonna name the company Boom, was it Boom Planes? You said
Boom Aviation.
Boom Aviation. They better find a way to have something on the aircraft and call it a boomstick. I don't care what purpose it fulfills, but there better be a boomstick on the aircraft.
Why is that a requirement?
It has to be. I mean,
just
come
because.
On. Just because? Why not?
All right, fine.
I don't get this though. Like, haven't we been down this path before?
Yeah,
we
I have no
supersonic
idea.
flight.
We had supersonic flight.
And why is it no longer around? Because it was too loud. A lot of airports wouldn't let Concorde aircraft land because of the engines and blah blah blah. The thing was the engines were what shrouded in tungsten or some other really expensive stuff. They were super expensive to operate. I mean, why are we? It's cool, but why? How is this going to be any different than the last time?
If you read into the Boom Aviation webpage, and I hesitate to not call it propaganda, to be quite honest. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see the supersonic aviation age come back.
I mean, yeah.
I would love to be able to fly to Dubai in 4 hours from Chicago.
But how do you get around of all the things that plague Concorde? Not even if you can get around scale of economies of scale and make it somehow cheaper. Even if the price of tickets weren't that much more than regular air, traditional jet engine air, what blah 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 blah, right? Non-supersonic aircraft, all of that, right? Even that, already assumed. It's increased stress on runways. It's going to cost more to operate because of that for, landing fees and whatnot. Not to mention potential redesigns. I would assume they'd build the airframe so it would fit in current airport designs, but blah, blah, or gate designs. But what about the sound of breaking the sonic boom of people? That was one of the biggest things before.
Yeah,
that was a problem.
You can't have a supersonic jet flying. You can have a supersonic jet flying over the public as long as it's not commercial sized.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is commercial sized.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. United said that if they can get the project off the ground, they're going to buy 9 of them. Again, it's contingent on Boom Aviation getting the project off the ground. Both literally and physically. So
I hope they do. I gotta say, and I will support them. I just don't see how they're
I don't see how they're going to get around noise abatement and like the environmental groups.
Yeah,
they're stronger than they were in the Concorde days.
Yep.
So it just it I don't I good luck
I mean,
to
what
them.
those are the number two. Those are the number one, two. Those are the two things that I think stick out from the Concorde days. They could probably get around the quote unquote threat to the to runways and airport maintenance, right, and gate maintenance and the whatever, right. Fine, they could probably find a way to eat costs of operation and ticket prices. They could maybe figure out a way to get them a little bit cheaper. Fine, but you still have, like you said, Nick, the other things you're still not going to get around is the noise and the environmental groups. So how it seems like the definition of insanity here. I'm not going to lie, doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's
I hope.
getting it's honestly getting to a point where I just am wondering if not necessarily the definition of insanity, but if we should just let them try and let them figure it out on their own. Because if you
I wonder
don't,
if it's a marketing stunt.
I don't know. Because why else would you have Boom Aviation? Like it would be like a division of Airbus or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't
I don't.
know.
That said, I don't feel like United would publicly commit to purchasing jets for a marketing stunt.
Yeah,
Frankly,
but they're also buying into the EV tolls. So technically, those aren't off the
yeah,
ground yet either.
they can
It's
buy anything they want, right? It's contingent on It's not contingent on them. It's contingent on Boom Aviation, right? So that's how they get out of it scot free, probably. Scotch free, scot free. I don't know what the phrase
I
is.
think it's Scot free.
God free? No, I'm just kidding.
But
We'll see. I eagerly, when I was a kid, I thought I thought Concord was like this was like without question is right, still is to this day, a marvel of human engineering, and I wish it was still around. But frankly, as a young adult here, I understand why it's not.
yeah,
Frankly,
yeah,
so I can wish and wish all I want, but it ain't gonna bring Concord back. So maybe
right,
they will, but we'll see. I don't know. I hope they do. I hope they figure it out. I really do. And I don't care what the ticket costs. I'll fly on one. I think it'd be cool, but we'll see. Oh, don't get my hopes up though. United Boom Aviation.
yeah, I know.
Anyway,
All right,
do you?
I'm gonna go to Wet and Wild first.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Do you want to do Wet and Wild real quick? I only have one.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a thing,
So
follow up from
so less
last week.
Wet and Wild and more kiddie pool splash for today. As we grab our little pool floaties and jump. Try not to dive, because the water here is shallow. In Wet and Wild Adventures. Okay, here we go. You're free to talk.
I just wanted to follow up on something that caught my eye. We talked about cruising last week and how Royal Caribbean and other cruise lines have committed to, starting cruising again with vaccinated passengers. Now, we didn't talk about, vaccine passports and, you know, proving said passengers are vaccinated. Well, I found it a little interesting just to update our audience here in that Florida is interesting, and they're in Florida State Governor. I think Rob DeSantis, I think is his name or something like that. You can have opinions for or against him, but he's doing what he, I guess, thinks is right for Florida. And I'm not going to say I agree or don't disagree with this thing, but it seems that Royal Caribbean, the cruise line I personally always go on, they have changed their tone on requiring passengers to be fully vaccinated when they begin sailing soon. I believe they're anticipating to set sail with Freedom of the Seas out of Miami as early as July. And they were originally going to require, as we had mentioned, guests to be 18 years or older and be fully vaccinated and have proof of vaccination, which we thought made sense, and I agree with that. However, it seems that they've done. I love the article from Forbes. It was written by Bruce Y. Lee. They've done a boat face. So that's not my joke. That's his. I thought it was great. That they issue a statement on Friday saying, "quote Guests are strongly recommended to set sail fully vaccinated if they are eligible." Those who are unvaccinated or unable to verify vaccination will be required to undergo testing and follow other protocols, which will be announced at a later date. Huh. Interesting. There's a big difference between required and strongly recommended. And I can't help but wonder if this is coming after a new law that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, sorry, not Rob, recently signed, that bans COVID vaccine passports in Florida. And the law apparently says as of July 1st, the Florida state government can fine a cruise ship operator $5,000 each and every time the cruise ship operator requires proof of vaccination to use their services. Again, I'm not arguing political stuff for or against. I just can't help but wonder if these statements are related and how that might affect Royal Caribbean's plans. And I got to be honest, I would not go cruise, though I love cruising, and Nick and I have talked about this offline for years and why I like it so much. There's many reasons I won't go into it now, but I wouldn't go until I was I am now fully, but I wouldn't set sail until I was fully vaccinated. I kind of liked having to be required to be vaccinated. I can't help but wonder if this new announcement from Royal Caribbean and potentially other cruise lines that sail out of Florida, Orlando, Miami, Tampa, whatever, and there are ones that sail out of Louisiana and Texas that may very well do the same thing. I don't know. I would have to say they're related. So, I don't know. Food for thought here, maybe a little bit of fuel, not fuel for thought just yet, but yeah. What do you think, Nick?
I mean, yeah, it's tough to say because I do also understand there are certain people, and I've learned this recently, or I guess come to full realization recently about this. There are people who just legitimately cannot get vaccinated for whatever reason. To limit them is one thing. To limit people who just don't want to get vaccinated because they don't trust the science is another thing.
Yep.
I agree with the second thing.
Though.
Yeah, I agree with the second thing.
There is something to be said too for cruise ships. Like people say they're floating in petri dishes, and to a point, I think that may or may not be true. But it's not like cruise ships are heathens of filth. I went on a cruise in March, and it wasn't even one of the new ships that has better filtration and environmental blah 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 gobbledygook.
You also go on a what I would consider a high quality cruise line. There are a lot of low quality cruise lines out there.
I mean, yeah, Royal Caribbean isn't, Norwegian cruise lines or like Regents or like some of like the really, really, really expensive ones. But yeah, I go there. I mean, not sponsored. My personal opinion, not the views of Redline Resorts, the podcast, or Nick, or just myself. I never have looked upon Carnival Cruise Lines and their ships as something that entices me to want to book a cruise. I've never sailed anything other than Royal Caribbean, and I think they've always been pretty dang clean. And I will say, when I went in March, during the beginning of COVID, before vaccines, I had never seen the ships cleaner, ever. So I don't know. I don't think, not to mention, you couldn't even get to the buffet without washing your hands, and there was people literally standing there making sure everyone washed their hands and used hand sanitizer, kind of like we have now. So I don't know. Food for thought. You make up your own mind. I can't help but think that this is related. We'll see what happens with Royal Caribbean, and if you're going to go cruise, please, if you can, get vaccinated to protect against yourself and other people that are going to be in close proximity. So, but I'd also say if they're going to go open cruising again, please go, because that supports so many people's incomes from around the world, not just, your fun vacation on a cruise ship drinking for a week straight. So, we got to get the industry back up and running any way we can. So, that's all I got.
Alrighty, and I think that's all we've got for Wet and Wild Adventures too.
Yeah, we don't have any fuel for thought because, frankly, Paddock Chat is almost fuel for thought this week because there's so much to think about.
So let's go ahead and move on into Paddock Chat.
And start off with why don't you? I always feel like I say the bad news. You say the bad news this time.
Okay. Well, we do have some bad news, and we our thoughts and
Yeah.
our thoughts and prayers go out to the McLaren team. I know they had what ended up being a great race for them today.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, and I am going to butcher this name, and I am so
I
sorry.
agree. Mansur, I can't pronounce his last name.
I want to say it's Oja, but I remember someone saying something similar to that.
Mhm.
But Mansur,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Oja again. I apologize if that's not the correct pronunciation. Um, but
absolutely.
but Mansur Oja passed away. He was a McLaren shareholder since 1984. Very involved in the team. He was
I
68
mean,
years
very
old.
well known in the F1 world.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and not really that old though.
No,
Like
he was
68
68. So
isn't that. I think that they were saying today on the after show that I was, talking about it, that he passed away surrounded by family, which is, I guess, in one way good, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if what ailments he had, but seems like every week we're losing, a famous, a notable name from the F1 community. I mean, yeah. I think McLaren, you know, they may not have done as well as they did in Monaco, but I think both Danny and Lando fought today. I think they had a great race, so I think they did him justice. I think that they did in fact race for him today. So well done to the team.
yes, absolutely. Um, I will follow that up with some interesting news. I did actually. Normally, I'm not the one. So usually, I'm not the one who gives the bad news. I'm also not usually the one who watches the NASCAR race.
I
That's usually
totally
Matt.
forgot about the race today, to be honest. Totally forgot.
Today was the NASCAR road race at Sonoma. Uh, Pretty straightforward road race. Although I learned two things today, and Matt,
Hmm.
maybe you can lend some insight on this. Um,
Okay.
I did not know that there was such a thing as a competition caution. Are you aware of this?
I am not either.
So a competition caution is put out after, I don't know, 8 to 10 laps, and it
Hmm.
allows all the teams to come in and pit and check their tires, check their downforce. Very much opposite of Parc Ferme rules in Formula 1. Um, I was like, oh, they're throwing a caution. I didn't see anybody crash. And then they all went into the pit and they were all checking their tires and their wings and their downforce. And I
Hmm.
was like, what? It's been 8 laps.
Almost kind of like what the red flag was used for today.
Well, the red flag. Well, we'll get to that. Hold that thought. No, this was specifically.
I know. Yeah, not
Yeah,
quite the same thing, but that's where my brain's going. Like, sounds like what they did today in F1. Not not the same thing, but that's interesting. I kind of like that idea because, frankly, as we'll get to, alluding to later, that's we could have used that maybe today earlier than we technically may have had it in F1. So.
yeah. Although, but with Parc Ferme rules in F1, you're not allowed to
Hmm.
change your downforce and your wing angles and your all your. They were allowed to do that during this.
Huh,
So very interesting. Never
that is
have seen
kind of.
that before. Never have seen it. And I'm not normally the one who watches NASCAR in this group. So
Yeah, I totally forgot about the race today. My bad.
so for me,
I will say
very
to
shocking.
something interesting though about races that I don't usually catch. I watched the F2 race in Baku, but I actually watched. I'm not. Did you watch any F2 this weekend, Nick? My
I
curiosity.
didn't. Let me finish Sonoma first because
Oh, I
there's a
thought. Oh,
couple.
I thought you were done. Sorry, my
Nope.
bad.
Um,
My bad.
so uh, race did go on today. I will say I also didn't realize I knew NASCAR had a lot of rubbing and bumping and
Hmm.
like that's if you're not rubbing you're not racing kind of thing. I always thought like oh yeah I know they bump into each other a little bit. I've never really watched a road race as close as I have to like today.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of just straight up shunting, like just like angry shoves and pushing and I think they had 8 or 9 cautions by the end of the race just because someone got shunted into a wall somewhere. Um,
That sounds like fun. I mean,
so
I like that
it
stuff. Frankly,
it
I've always thought
literally it
yeah.
literally looked like bumper cars, like professional bumper cars.
Hmm,
So very interesting for me today, watching that.
yeah.
Um,
I've always loved the for NASCAR the road races are, you know, maybe it goes without saying, but a little more interesting than big ovals. So it is a different view of racing, stuff like that, which is cool. But
absolutely. So
speaking of a different view of racing, as sorry to interrupt you there. I thought you
no,
had
no, no,
yeah.
you're fine.
Did you catch any F2 this weekend?
I did not
Out of
catch any
curiosity.
F2. For those of you listening, I also just want to throw out a quick congratulations to my grandparents on their 60th wedding anniversary.
Oh, absolutely.
So I did not have a ton of time to watch racing outside of the normal watching it on Sunday morning with my grandfather because of that, and I had cousins and extended family in town for that matter.
Mhm.
So um, we were a little preoccupied, so I did not get to watch any F2 this week.
Well, if I may say, I did watch. I didn't watch the actual. I didn't watch the actual races for like their actual Baku race, but I did watch the uh, the sprint races, and let me tell you, those were full of action. I mean, I thought it was very enjoyable to watch. Again, if you can catch F2 stuff, definitely it's good to see these younger drivers. I think I can't remember his name. I'm unfamiliar with the driver, but I think one of the drivers who's 17 won one of the races, making him the youngest winner in F2 history to date, I believe. But it was I watched the two sprint races, and they were I think they were 21 laps apiece. At least the first one was 21 laps, and there was tons of great action. And we're going to be seeing F1 sprint races coming soon, obviously, or within the season, that is, rather. And I think it bodes well, frankly. I liked watching them. They seem like a different kind of pace of action, frankly, than what I'm used to with the F2 races. But yeah, I thought it was well worth a watch. So continue to do so if you're able to catch it. But yeah, may have contributed though. There's a lot of action may have contributed, as the announcer said today, to some of the issues we saw in F1. Of course, investigations will happen between teams and good old Pirelli, but well, we'll see. So with that, moving before we get there, one more cool thing I saw. Our man over here, Mr. Zach with a K Brown. You see what he's getting up to here soon? Or Nick, are you there?
I apologize. My microphone was starting to come unplugged, and I didn't realize it. No, I did see. I saw his name pop up a couple of times. I know that he was looking into something. I
He's
know
gonna
from our schedule what the answer to that is, but I did not get a chance to look into it.
I guess maybe I kind of shouldn't have put that in there, but he will be co-driving with what is his name? Make sure if I find the name. Richard Dean. They are going to be co-driving a McLaren 570S at the European GT4 Series in June 18th and 20th in Zandvoort. So we're gonna get to see him actually behind the wheel of a modern race car. Of course, it's a McLaren, right? But he's gonna be actually racing. So we'll try to catch that and see how he does. But it's kind of cool to see, a team principal actually racing. I think it's super cool, frankly. For those who might not know, he's the team principal of the McLaren
Yeah.
racing team, F1 team. So
Well,
if you don't know,
in addition to being
yeah.
the
I tend to forget about actual McLaren.
yeah. Well,
Hey,
and
is he the CEO of actual McLaren as well? I think.
I don't know if he's the CEO or just the current sitting president, but he's also the team principal of um, the IndyCar league.
Oh, that's right.
So
McLaren's all over the place, and
yeah,
they do quite well in IndyCar. So good luck to him, even though it's not till the mid to end of this month. But obviously, good luck to him. So with
absolutely.
that, we do have one more victim to the pandemic. We will not be racing. And I am actually very sad about this. Singapore is unique, but we will not be racing this year in Singapore. Canceled, I believe it's because of COVID restrictions. The F1 Grand Prix in Singapore is removed from the calendar, much like the Grand Prix du Canada. And I believe the talk is it'll be replaced with back-to-back U.S. Grand Prix in Austin. I don't think that's confirmed yet, but another victory. I think they're gonna make it up, so we'll still have a 23 race scheduled, but we'll see. So unfortunate, but hopefully we'll be there next year. So
Yes.
with that, to the Grand Prix Friday, Saturday, and today in Baku in Azerbaijan off the Caspian Sea. What a race weekend we had.
Holy smokes.
I think we do start with. I think usually there may or may not be much to report from practices or quali, but I think we do have some things to report in practices and quali. So
Um,
I say we start at FP1.
yeah. So, do you want to cover the FPs and then, um,
Yeah.
I only caught FP3 and then the qualies. So, if you want to cover one and two,
Oh,
I
did
can
you not
fill in.
catch 1 and 2? So
I
yeah.
watched the
So
highlights, but I didn't catch the nuances. Let's put it that way.
I'm trying. So at least to me, the nuances they were interesting in that lots of people still hitting barriers at turn 15 and whatnot. But just because I thought it was interesting who came out on top during the practice sessions. I'm going to the F. I don't want to misquote the podium because after today, I feel like my mind's kind of been wiped, frankly, of of the free practices. But I don't want to get it wrong. Let me head over to the F1 Instagram page, so they'll have them
So
posted there.
yeah, so from the highlights that I saw, I mean,
Of course, it
it
doesn't
it
load now that I'm
it was an. I mean, Mercedes didn't have a good showing in any of the FPs.
No, that the first thing
Um,
that sticks out. Now, Grant, you might be able to argue that Baku is not one of the tracks where their car is best, and the Red Bull's more suited to it. That I would agree with that statement. However,
in the turns, but in the straights, not so
yeah,
much. As we'll
and
get into
we
later.
saw that. I was to say I've got. I mean, you may have seen. I've got something regarding that
Right.
as well, but I can't find the podiums for practice. I don't know why. I thought they'd be on their Instagram, but maybe they didn't put them there, frankly. So I remember we saw Checo as fast as I think in FP2. We saw I think Max was fastest in FP1. I could be wrong, but what sticks out in my mind is that they were great racing. It made me very happy for what's to come, frankly, and yeah, some unexpected results I think in the first FP1 and FP2, and then
Well,
I think
we saw the big wing change with Mercedes, with one car running
yeah,
one wing and
so
one
I
car
think
running another.
FP2 1 and 2 Red Bull was running a basically much smaller, not skinnier, but less wide. I don't know the unwide. I can't remember. I don't know what the term would be, but less wide wing for
I would say it's a
greater
narrower
speed.
wing.
Narrow. There you go. Narrower wing. That's what I was looking for. Narrower wing. Whereas Mercedes just didn't seem to get a whole lot of downforce, and wasn't really showing up for FP1 and 2. So I believe in FP3 and quali they put on a wider wing, kind of like their old trusty wing, if you will, to give them some greater downforce and of course more heat and stuff in the tires. Because throughout the weekend, practices and quality and race day, Mercedes had a problem getting the heat in their tires. So
Yeah.
maybe the DAS system did do a lot more than they let on, and I'd say, come on, Valtteri and Hamilton. Let's see more of your skill and less of the DOS and see more better, warm up your tires. But
Well,
interesting nonetheless.
as we'll talk about later, they have a button
Into
that's supposed to
FP3
do that.
then. So, of course, the wing change leading us into FP3. And, they saw definitely improvements from Mercedes. Hamilton was going much faster with the wing improvement, or change, rather. What else did we see in FP3?
Uh, I mean, Checo again was putting in good laps. Max was getting in good laps. The end of FP3, was it? No, that was Quali that Lance hit turn 15. Qualifying
We
was
saw a lot of people turn 15
turn 15
throughout.
was really a doozy this time around. I honestly thought it was going to
Yeah.
be turn 10 where it gets real narrow by the church.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't think so because to start that whole like chicane, basically they backed off turn 8 to give them more room. So I thought that was gonna be fine. I was not worried there. I was worried in 15, frankly, but
15. Oh, I was worried for race day in 15. Just after watching the, um, I'm gonna start calling it the red qualifying, because like the
right.
red wedding, there was a lot of red during that qualifying.
Tied most red flags in a qualifying session since what, Hungary in 2004 or something like that.
17.
I thought it was even earlier than that,
Oh,
but
could have been.
4 is a lot.
Yeah, we'll
Frankly.
we'll get there, but in the FPs, the Ferraris really starting to shine in the
Yeah.
FP3s, and then the big shocker was all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Sebastian Vettel went from having a like 13th time to a
hmm
third place time for a good amount of the FP3, and
hmm
then him coming back to where he ultimately settled in. But
Yeah, we saw Mazepin touch. We saw a bunch of guys getting to 15. That's where Mazepin had his little rub with front and rear right side of his car with turn 15 too. Um,
yeah, we also have sorry, we should go over our Mazepin spin counter.
oh, do we have an
So
update?
yes, so in FP1, he did spin at turn 16, 3 minutes before the end of FP1. By the way, this is all on whendidmazepinspin.com. In FP2, it wasn't quite a spin, but he did drive off the edge of the track and had to drive in his circle, which we're counting as close enough. And then in the Baku GP, he did spin on lap 24, causing a yellow flag. In which case, a lot of people pointed at him and laughed at him, which I was very happy about. And there's a lot of pictures of that. So,
I did see that. I think didn't Max also go into the wall in FP3 as well in turn
Max
15?
had a good number of run-ins with turn 15. More
Yeah.
rubbing goes, but that sounds terrible. I'm sorry. Um, more just minor contact with the wall that he was able to quickly escape from.
hmm
Um,
Until he wasn't, and he had his car shipped back to the garage, and I think also another casualty after Leclerc and turn 15. One thing I think the for me the best part about FP3 was how it ended, and by that I mean
um,
the top three finishers,
yeah.
because
Now here, real quick, before we say that, I do want to make mention, because with what we're going to talk about in the race today, there might be some questions raised, because I raised those questions as well. Um, the turn 15 collisions were all on the right side of the vehicles.
hmm
There
yeah,
was no left side or specifically left rear damage. So,
and I think it all can be attributed to what looked like braking, either braking too aggressively and locking up and having to, if you were lucky or maybe somewhat are you good enough using the runoff road, or not braking early enough and just carrying too much speed through the corner. Um,
thank
but
goodness
there
for
were
Tech
people who got
Pro
it right.
barriers, by the way.
What's that?
I said thank goodness for Tech Pro barriers.
Yeah, to absorb a lot of that impact, and all the drivers walked away. Okay, they weren't terribly high speed crashes, but something you still don't want to see nonetheless. But to end FP3, I mean, maybe it was an omen, pardon me, for the race because, you know, someone who's been incredibly consistent this season and is nowhere going but up. And how improved is he, right? Pierre Gasly was the top of the timesheets for FP3, followed by Perez, who I believe was top of the timesheets in FP2. So Perez was doing everything right, through practices. Hamilton, he was in third, so you could see he gained a lot more speed with their FP3 changes, and it bode a little interesting, a little harrowing for Max heading into quali, but Red Bull was able to get him ready for qualifying. And however, one last thing did happen in FP3 that I'm remembering. It happened to our good old boy, Mr. George Russell and Williams.
Ah, yes. I did forget
And
about this.
so, interestingly enough, I think nearly the teams that are powered by Mercedes and Ferrari were all using a new power unit for this race, new engine essentially, and which is good, fresh engine, bet a little more horsepower, fresh horsepower, right? And things seem to be going well, except towards the end of FP3, where what I think came to be known there was a water pump leak from George Russell's car. If I'm not mistaken, there was something leaking and he lost power completely. Long story short, they got him back to the garage and the paddock, and they were working on his car to reinstall essentially the old power unit ferociously, the Williams mechanics, and they ended up being able to do so. And with some of the some of the red flags on Q1, gave them some more time, to be ready, and he was able to get out and do some runs. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for those of you who may be unencumbered to F1, or maybe this was your first race, um, FP stands for free practice, and then free practice 3 leads into qualifying.
hmm day one
So,
is FP1 and FP2, an hour each. There's a little bit of break in between, and then FP3 on Saturday. That is beginning day two. And then quali is broken into three parts: Q1, 2, and 3. Have we ever actually talked about how qualifying works? For those who may not know.
I don't. If we have, we should probably go over it again, being that
Well,
this is going to be such a
I
widely
mean,
searched race.
quality is pretty it's logical, but essentially all the drivers go out at once, much like the practices. They try to set fastest laps and get toes, essentially be in the slipstream of the cars ahead of them to go faster and all those fun games. But for qualifying, essentially 20 cars go out for qualifying 3. They have the allotted length of time to set fastest laps, and the slowest 5 get dropped. And then we're in quali or Q2 where we have the top 15 drivers. Same thing. And then you have
And by we should say by dropped, they're not racing in the race. They're just those are their positions at the time are locked
yep,
in.
they don't you don't set a fast enough time to be in the top 15. You don't get to continue into qualifying round 2. Same thing for qualifying 2. The next 5 slowest drivers 11 through 15, get dropped out of, and they don't make it to their grid position is set for the day, race day, and then the top 10 fight it out for, of course, your top 10 starting, and that's also where whoever goes fastest is the one who sits on pole in first position to start the race in position 1. So
In
yeah,
addition, it comes with its own trophy,
oh
and
yeah,
the top 10 positions are the only positions that receive points in Formula One. So, essentially, the last qualifying is the final points positions.
yep. I think position 10 is worth like 1 point,
Correct.
and then position 1 is worth what, 25? I think points.
25. It's kind of an odd scoring method, but it
Yeah.
makes sense if you follow the sport and
To be honest, I
everything
can't
else that
remember
goes
what
on.
each position is worth. I think position 3 is worth like 16, and I can't remember what 2 is. Or why. It's interesting, but Wikipedia is your friend there. But anyway, so we get into qualifying, and
Almost
boy was
instantly, we have a red flag.
who caused the Q1 red flag? I can't remember. Was that
Um,
no? Because
no,
that
who
Q1
was?
red flag gave George Russell's mechanics more time to get his car ready to go back out. So
Right. Was it Giovinazzi? No.
I'm gonna actually go to
No, it was
F1
Stroll
TV.
and then Giovinazzi.
Let me pull up. I'm gonna pull up F1 TV and
Okay.
make sure we're not misquoting. There was a
I
little things that happened
believe
today.
the first one was Lance Stroll. The second one
It
was Antonio
was.
Giovinazzi.
Yep.
Okay.
It was Lance Stroll. Was the first one, gave us a yellow flag, and then turned to a red, which is not rare for Baku, frankly.
Being that the
And
streets are so narrow
yep,
that you can't.
yep.
There's no runoff area to move the car into and let the other cars pass by safely.
And then the second one was Giovinazzi.
Right.
He went off and turned once again a casualty of turn 15. Yep. So they all came back again. The session was stopped again, I
Right.
believe. And then we had a little incident with Lando. Lando got a little unlucky as well. He was supposed to come when a red flag is deployed. The drivers are supposed to return to the pit as soon as they are essentially able to. Well, unfortunately for Lando, where he was coming around, I can't remember what corner it was, but he was when the red flag blared its ugly head, its red head. It was right before the pit opening of the pit lane. I think he was unsure what he was supposed to do, so he asked his team. His team essentially said, if you can get into the pit, otherwise stay out. He was already, by the time he had to make a split less than millisecond decision, he couldn't get back in. The FIA didn't take to that well, saying he should have gone into the pit while he was there and saw the red flag, and that's why he was handed a three place grid penalty. So where he qualified, he had to fall back 3 places to where he actually started the race from. I believe did he not also get points on his license as well?
I don't know
I
because I know they were petitioning to have that reversed.
I
The
think
initial
I don't know if
call
it's
was
reversed yet, but they did do it initially at the very least. Hopefully they'll reverse that. I would agree, but
as the
it
same
could
as
also
with
be said.
Nicholas Latifi.
I mean, there's a reason why there's virtual safety cars and double yellow flags and red flags. Like they're all, even today the announcers and the FAA knows that none of the racers really adhere to the double yellow, which means basically get ready to stop at any time because you're really close to a red flag. I think you can be said that this year they need to do a better job of adhering to their various flags. Some racers more than others, but the very least, I do think it was worth the 3 place grid penalty, but I don't think it's worth points on his license, his racing license. So hopefully they take that away if they haven't already. But I think that was pretty much it for Q1. Was it not? I can't remember anything else that happened in Q1, to be honest.
No, I think
Nothing else.
that was it for Q1.
Yeah. We saw. Was it Seb? And to start Q2, I don't think Seb got a penalty, but we saw him pull out right in front of Perez to leave the paddock, really close to him, like almost like cutting him off close. So that would
Yeah.
that didn't bode well to start, but I don't think Seb got a penalty for that. He should have, frankly.
No, there was 100% an unsafe exit. It was
I
an unsafe
believe
release.
one of the Alpines looks like it touched the wall. That's where Daniel, he went into, I believe, turn 15, or it was turn 3, was it?
I believe it was it turn 3 or turn 5?
I can't remember. Danny went into the wall, one of the turns. So, which again, red flag again, and now we're in Q2, and he was okay, thank goodness, just like the rest of the drivers. Very unlike Danny to have an error like that, frankly. But that was our next, frankly. And then I'm actually watching the thing right now. I'm going through the highlights just to make sure I'm not missing anything from notes here. So far, I'm Leclerc set some really fast times. So too did Sainz. Then Verstappen came around and set some fast times as well.
And
what else do we got?
well, it was in that process as we got I believe it was the red flag for session 2. Was it that?
No, by now we're into Q3, I believe.
Well, because to make note, Seb was on a flying lap when the red flag went out. That would have put him, by timing standards, into the third round of qualifying, but it was cut off. due to
Yeah, it was
the
almost
red
like the
flag.
same thing that happened in Monaco, where Leclerc said fastest time was sitting on provisional pole, being he's looking like the fastest, but qualifying 3 wasn't over yet. And then I believe at turn 15, Yuki Tsunoda went into the barrier. I think Carlos Sainz got caught up as well, maybe a little bit of lack of
Yes. Yep.
concentration, and also trying to avoid Yuki. He
Well,
went off
I
the
think Yuki's crash caught his attention, and he locked up the brakes trying to slow down in
Yeah,
time.
I think he admitted that he had, kind of lost focus a little bit, which it tends to happen in Baku a little. You shouldn't, but there's a really really long the back. Last corners are basically a giant straight. Let's be honest. So, I mean, he was losing focus. I think you're right. Yuki's crash caught his attention, locked up. I think both the front and right tires. Went off the exit road or the runoff road and smashed his front wing, and because that was so close to the end of Q3, we once again that was the end. So all the drivers, Bottas and Hamilton, and everybody else, didn't have the ability to do another fast lap. So we were left with like what Bottas in 10th, Hamilton in third, Perez in sixth, I think.
I
We
believe
had
so.
Not Carlos, Charles Leclerc on pole, Hamilton in second. So
Max in third.
yeah, yeah, it was
So,
interesting, and frankly, Nick and I are talking about it. I was angry. So too was Max if you saw his post quality interview.
oh,
But
his post qualification interview is I warn you, don't go watch it just because it is filled with profanity.
yeah, but
However,
I mean,
he
understandably, the
was
same thing happens
angry.
again to him. I do believe that all of the drivers once again had faster laps in them, and it kind of robbed from them. So not, but that's not what you want to see. You want to see them fight it out to the end. You don't
Right,
want to see qualifying ended with, one person is actually able to get a fast lap in around all the freaking red flags. That happened to Bottas. He was never able to get a really good lap in because he was getting caught by all the red flags.
right,
Um, they're all fighting for toes off the cars, because that's a big thing in Baku, is getting in that slipstream in front of the car. Which accounted for like anywhere from 4 to like 6 tenths advantage without DRS or something like that. So it was interesting. Not, I would say, what you want to see, but yeah, we had quite the interesting setup for what would be another interesting race day, and yeah, that brings us to I guess the start, where yeah, Charles was on pole, Hamilton was Verstappen, Perez was I think Lando was going to be fourth, but then he wasn't, obviously. Um, first, and then yeah, Perez was down in sixth, I believe, to start the race. So yeah, and then lights went out. Take it from Why don't you two take it for a bit there? Lights went out and away we were. The
lights went out,
Azerbaijan
and
Grand
away
Prix.
we were on the race. Initially, everything looked like a. I mean, it was a hotly contested first. I would say third of the race
Mm-hmm.
with
But still a good
first
first third.
absolutely hotly contested in the sense that first place was it was Charles Leclerc,
Uh-huh.
and then Hamilton. uh, Did Hamilton take him at one point, and then Max took
He did.
Hamilton?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if I think within the first few laps or so, Hamilton took first, and then Max was able to pass him as well. So it's like he was just unable to keep up, which arguably, against the Red Bull and Hamilton and Verstappen, yeah, kind of hard
crucially
to.
here they were on soft tires.
Yeah, they were on soft tires. The strategy was about like anywhere from like 7 to 12 laps in pit tier and to get on your hards, but it was a good race to begin with. I mean, Checo had a great start. I think within the first couple laps as well, he had made up 2 places and was already in fourth. Max.
Yeah,
So
and he was on Max's tail. He was protecting Max's rear end.
like he's supposed to
Yep.
as his teammate, and
Yes.
he eventually passed Charles as well. And then we had some just good racing. And
It was some
then
good back and forth, and Max ended up in first place and really stuck the beans to the Mercedes. And then, I mean,
Well, a great pit strategy as well on account of Red Bull.
oh,
I would agree
absolutely.
that there may have been some discussion about bringing Gasly in when they did, but Hamilton pitted and he had a long pit. It was about 4 seconds because they had to, arguably, the Mercedes team made him wait longer than they should have, but they had to wait for a safe exit because Gasly would, right as they finished Hamilton's pit stop,
It
to go to his
absolutely
hards.
would have been an unsafe release if they had let him
Yeah,
go
but
at
they
that
held
time.
him longer than they should. If you
Yeah.
watch like the slow mo, yeah, it's milliseconds, right? But I still think they held him longer than they should. But he had to wait, and hence his long pit stop. Max had a great, 1.9 Red Bull pit stop. Checo pitted in a lap after Max, and still came out in front of Hamilton to stay in second.
To which
For
Hamilton
then,
said, "How is he so fast in front of me?" And to which Bono responded, "We had to wait." That was it.
which
We had to
I
wait.
agree with the commentators and the analysts afterwards. That's not the only reason why he was in front of him.
No.
That was part of it, but that's not the only reason. Because even Perez also had a bad pit stop as well. He had a 4 second pit stop because I think one of the left rear wheel guns failed, so they had to go to the backup. But he got out in like 4 point something seconds. But if you, one of the things I wrote down to talk about today was the splits, was the sector times, and you could see that the Mercedes, the Red Bull in general, was not very fast comparative to the field down sector 3, basically like the big straight
Yeah.
parts of the track. And you look at Hamilton, he was regularly like, zero point 0.4 to zero point 0.6 seconds faster than Perez, probably getting a tow as well. But that Merc had pace when it was in a tow. But I think part of the reason why Perez was so much faster than Hamilton is because if you watch the sector times, and like you said, Nick, when you never paid more attention to a NASCAR road race, I never paid more attention today to the data tracker and sector timing than I did for this race. Because if you saw Hamilton compared to the Red Bulls, they were killing him in sectors 1 and 2, all the curvy bits. So I think that's how they're making that time up and keeping Hamilton at bay, even when he had DRS and he couldn't get around Perez. So I don't think it was just because of Hamilton's pit stop that caused that.
No,
But
there was definitely other strategy and the tight corners really playing a
yeah,
factor to
the
the
Red
Red
Bull
Bull.
was on par today. I will point out as well. I'll say that to the end actually. That's something with
Well,
Mazepin, but
yeah.
yeah.
So, with that, we had the good sector timings. We get to Max is out ahead. Seb was leading for a little while because he was
Mm-hmm.
later to go into the
Seb was
pits.
doing great.
Seb was doing fantastic,
Driver of the day, well
yes,
deserved.
well deserved, and we'll get to that in the ending too, as to additionally why that was very much deserved. However, at the time, he was leading. He was still out on the softs. Everybody else had gone in for the hard tires. As soon as he pit, it was then Max and Checo, keeping Hamilton at bay. And
Pretty much like the whole race until we had the Stroll incident.
well, yeah. So hit about 2/3 of the way through the race. Lance Stroll is going down. Was that? That was the back straight. Right after turn.
Yeah, it was the back straight right before the start finish line, right before the pit entry, because he crashed and blocked the pit entry. Then
Was that the case, or was he on the other side of the pit entry where it gets real
no,
narrow?
he what ended up happening was he kept it off to the left side of the track, but he ended up blocking the pit entry. He was coming down the last turn, quote unquote, before the start finish, and then his left rear tire, I believe, just failed.
Yeah. So well, and they showed the footage of it. I don't know if you caught this in the
Mm-hmm.
post race show, but literally the sidewall had completely torn off the wheel. It was a complete failure. It wasn't just a puncture. It was a complete failure
And
of the tire.
it's important to note that there will be a heck, HELL, the fun, word, but there will be a lot of investigations on the part of Pirelli and the part of the teams in general about what went wrong today. Because it could be the car, could be debris from, some lively F2 races, a little bit of carbon fiber could puncture the tires and blah, blah, blah. Baku's a very dirty track already to begin with, being a street course. So we'll find out what happened. I
But
think it was wrong tire choice. I think they should have gone with a little bit more durable next range up, not the softest or compounds that Pirelli had. Plus, I think there's an issue with the quality of the hard tires, obviously.
Well,
So,
and we'll get to the reason why we think that in a minute here. But going through, we had the Stroll incident. He gets, he crashes out. They go to cut away right
like
out.
180 miles an hour. He
Yes.
luckily got out of the car from that, so he
Yeah.
seemed to be okay, which was amazing.
Right, and he was brought in by the medical car. He was brought to the medical area and checked out. He is perfectly fine, which again speaks to the safety of these cars. But no, Lance had the tire blowout. That brought out the safety car, which then bunched the pack back up. So now we had Max. At the time, was it Max Hamilton Checo or was it Max Checo Hamilton? I can't remember the first safety car which order it was in.
At that point, like the top three.
Yeah. Was it Max?
Um,
Was it Max Checo Hamilton at that point, or was it Max Hamilton?
Yeah,
Checo?
it was pretty much Max Checo Hamilton for like the whole race after they got in hards.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, Hamilton never was able to get around Checo.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking. I don't know why I was thinking the other way around. Anyway, so
yellow actual safety car.
I mean, actual safety car comes out. We have a couple of laps. They clean up the debris. They get everything out of the way. Racing resumes. Good midfield battles. Obviously, Sebastian was making his way. He got into fourth place, so he was so.
One thing I noticed after the safety car restart was how slow Mazepin was compared to Mick Schumacher.
Oh,
and
significantly
you can see that as how they ended the race today. Mazepin actually beat Mick in Monaco, but Mazepin was lapped, and I think he did a better job today of getting over when he was supposed to with the blue flags. But better than before.
Better than before.
With all the warnings that he has, yeah, we've talked about that, right? But to that point, at the end of the race, you could see, everyone, of course, was restacked up, so that helped, and everyone, with the safety car. But at the end of the race, never more was it apparent how slow Mazepin was because he was about to be, close to getting lapped again at the end of the race. But Mick was keeping up with the back of the pack on the current lap. So, I mean, basically, Mick was almost 2/3 of a track length ahead of his own teammate. So, I can't say it didn't feel nice to see, but
yeah.
But besides that, it was a pretty normal race.
That is not just slow. That's so immensely slow because, as we're about to explain, there was a restart with only 2 laps remaining.
Yeah, so to set that up, the yellow flag, and we still saw good racing, the same battles we had all day between, Bottas, that they're at like P10 and, whatnot, and blah, blah, blah. And then, heart-wrenching, around, I think it was lap 47 is when it happened.
Heart and gut-wrenching, to be honest.
Max was coming down near this, a little bit farther than did Lance Stroll, and his right rear hard tire.
Left rear.
Sorry, right, left rear. Sorry, I was thinking like staring at the car, but if you're driving the car, left rear. His left rear, shall we say, failed. I don't think it was the same kind of fit. Like, the sidewall wasn't gone. I think we saw that. We certainly saw Max eventually get out of his car after a 200-mile-an-hour crash and kick his tire in frustration, which I believe is a meme now, is it?
It is. In fact, the Angry Max meme is growing quite popular on the internet right
but
now.
Makes sense why it exists.
Absolutely.
I mean, talk about how angry and gut-wrenching that would be. He walked out of the car, thank goodness, as well.
Well, and he now is not... his car is totaled. He's no longer in the race. And as the Drivers' Championship leader, he now is getting 0 points and opening the opportunity.
Hamilton by 4 points right now.
Correct.
So, how terrible that it is, not even his fault. It was the tire. And whether it's a puncture or tire failure, again, it'll all be revealed eventually. But confirmed rather in the investigations, but beyond gut wrenching. Red flag for quite a while.
Well, it was a
Since
yellow
seeing that.
flag, and I do have to say it was absolutely one of the best moves that Red Bull has made. They contacted the FIA and they said, "Hey, we had absolutely no idea what was going on with these tires.
Their data didn't show any indication of that
We
happening
had
or was about to
no
happen.
slow leak. We were not showing any overheating. The tires are rated or were rated for that track to last 40 laps. We're on 31, and we
Mhm.
had a complete failure of the tire. And it was Red Bull and between Christian Horner and I can't believe I can't not believe I can't
Yeah, their
remember their
chief race
liaison. Yeah.
strategist, or I can't remember his name.
Um,
He sits in the
and
pit
he's
wall.
also their liaison to the FIA. He reached out on the FIA radio and said, "You need to red flag this race. This is the same thing that just happened to Lance. Something is
That
wrong
way
with
they
these
could call the
tires."
cars in, they could check the tires, they could change, like they all, we saw everyone change their tires to either Seb, like with a brand new set of softs, or everybody else a set of softs they'd already used during FP or qualifying, so they could change their tires and get off of those hards because two hards failed, the exact same, rear left, you know.
Which, by the way, it should be noted with these cars, it's not like, oh, the rear tires are the same and the front tires are the same. No, like each individual tire on that car is designed to
It's
be put
supposed to go
on
in a
that
certain
corner.
place too.
Yes,
It's also
right.
like you can't just put the left tire on the right and the right on the rear left. They're
They're
all
they're
meant to go.
they're different tires.
Yeah,
So
they're each driver has their own tires. You can't put. We've already seen this year, right, or last year actually. You can't put a
last year
different driver's
with George
tires on
Russell's
a
car, right?
different driver's car. It's very very official, and Red Bull could have easily just pushed to finish the race under safety car and guaranteeing a Checo Hamilton, I believe Checo Hamilton
Leclerc.
or Vettel, at that point would have been first, second,
No,
third.
it was Leclerc.
Um, was it?
Leclerc was in back in third at that point.
Okay, I can't remember
Because
that
then
part.
Vettel
But anyway,
overtook
they would
during
have
the
been
restart.
guaranteed the first place. But they want to race, and they should be commended for their decision or their push, rather. Then we had a red flag. People came back. Tire blankets came out. And drivers were out, and all kinds of stuff going on, right? Then eventually, we're running a little long here today, obviously. Lots happened, but the race resumes. Not from from pit lane, or not from a virtual safety car. Sorry, from a full standing start. So formation lap led by Perez, and they all line up on the grid just like they started the race at. And I will let you take it from here, because we saw. I will say this: we saw something interesting. I do believe that Hamilton. You saw him pull ahead of Perez from second to take first. I think he got a much better start from Perez. And
Perez
earlier,
did make a valiant effort. One, he had another great start off the line, but Hamilton beat him.
Hamilton just beat him. But I
And
think important to note as well, Hamilton, just before they went out for the formation lap to restart, for the standing start, at lap 49 of 51. He said something to the effect of, remember, guys, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Toto agreed, Bono agreed, because he wasn't talking about, risking last two laps to get first, but rather the driver's championship. He's in second. They would be okay potentially with second in the points because Max not getting any, and blah, blah, blah. So then we're at the start. We see Hamilton's car, his front brakes, getting real hot and smoking, essentially.
yes, should I take it from here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and even my cousin, it was their first F1 race that they were watching. I was with my cousins this morning. They even noticed, hey, that car looks like it's on fire.
It was
And we,
supposed to be, technically.
well, yeah, technically, but not something uncommon, not something that we've seen. Lewis's brakes getting really really hot in the front, especially when they had DAS.
Mm-hmm.
But lights go out. Lewis has a fantastic start. Checo tries to cut him off to block him a little bit. can't get it done. And then Lewis, it appeared to a lot of people, to the uncovered eye, that he just kept driving straight. Didn't even try to make the turn. What had happened was he severely locked up his front brakes. And instead of turning, just essentially skid straight through the intersection and into the runoff road. Which then, of course, I'm sorry, can't speak English apparently. It is my first language. He then was put into the back of the race, the end of the race, to where.
Hang on, but before you touch on what you're gonna touch on with Hamilton and your opinion.
No. I wanted to just finish off the race and then I was going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were headed towards
No.
that.
I know you know where I'm going to go with this, but let's finish the race out first so we can talk about the more fine details.
You did. I sorry. I was something popped up on my phone and I had to answer it. You did say about the magic button?
Not yet.
Right?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
We'll
Fine.
get there.
Thought you did already.
No. So Hamilton, it appears, drives in a straight line. His brakes completely locking up, without what appeared to be any effort. Complete lock up.
Looked like his front brakes just didn't work.
Right.
Frankly.
And essentially they didn't, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that opened it up then. Checo had first place. That put Vettel in second place. And it ended up with a fight, a very good fight for 2 laps for third place.
Oh, there's Leclerc and
Gasly.
They went back and forth the entire time. It was great.
It was a fantastic. If you want to see what true F1 fight for the podium looks like, watch those two going back and forth.
Yeah.
The last 2 laps of that Grand Prix were an absolute. We knew Checo was going to stay out ahead. There was no way that the Aston Martin was going to keep up. Don't get me wrong. I am very happy to see Sebastian on the podium. I'm also very happy to see Checo on the podium. I'm also very happy to see Gasly on the podium, although I would have had it either way with how good that battle was between him and Charles.
But good to see him and how great he's been on the podium. But I mean, it's not because you can't forget this because Hamilton made a mistake.
Right.
Hamilton had an error. I mean, he hit their magic button, right? Their magic button that was supposed to make those brakes switch the brake balance, so essentially, more control and grip in the front tires to, shoot through that first corner. And that's why we saw the smoking that we did. But he's apparently, from what I was reading, he then switched off which, by the way, how cool is that on the steering wheel, there's a button that changes the brake balance to just like control heating in the tires like that. So cool, by the way, frankly. F1's amazing, all technology. But apparently he had mistakenly turned it back on as they approached the first corner, right? So effectively turning off his front brakes again, and that's why he went straight instead of going to the left.
Essentially, he had no front brakes.
So we could.
What that came down to.
Oh, I think it's amazing that he wasn't hitting frankly, by anybody. He's like, the first time I saw him, I'm like, oh no, okay, now move on, right? That's horrible. Anyway, like the Top Gear meme.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the second time I saw the replay, I'm like, how did he not get hit by anybody turning?
Well,
it looked like he narrowly missed some of the racer's front wings turning left.
Which, by the way, another meme alert. A lot of people have been putting the ending scene to Fast and Furious 7, where Paul Walker, or the CGI version of Paul Walker, drives off in one direction and the other car goes off in the other direction. Everybody has been doing and putting the I can't remember the artist of the song, but the "I'll See You Again" song to that clip where it's like Hamilton driving off in one direction and everybody else going another direction.
I love it.
Which fantastic. Nothing against Sir Lewis Hamilton. He absolutely has. He has proven himself over 7 drivers' championships to be a
But
fantastic driver.
even the greats can make mistakes like we saw today.
Absolutely.
And the only one of the I think only good news about that is, and he didn't finish in the points obviously, which means Max and Hamilton keep the same 4-point deficit between them. So Max may not have
And
finished.
Max may not have finished. Lewis did, but he didn't finish in a points
I
position,
just saw
which means that Max still retains his driver's championship first place, even though he did not finish, literally DNF'd.
I gotta say, I'm sorry. I just went to the Formula Dank
Uh-oh.
subreddit, and the first thing that came across was everyone seeing Hamilton lock up in the first corner, and it's a crowd just cheering like, "Yeah!" God. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Whew. Anyway, I mean, it was an amazing race. I mean, it was so great to see Checo on top, despite his car not making it to the first position in front of the podiums. Um,
So
the fact that Checo finishes the race and then the car just did the Red Bull run out of fuel? Is that what happened?
yeah, not even into turn one, it ran out of fuel. It literally was running out of fuel as it crossed the finish line.
300 feet after the finish line, he ran out of fuel, so he had to walk back. There's another one. Bono battery's gone. Bono, my tires are dead. Controller disconnected.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I saw that one right before we logged on to do this. But
oh God, okay.
So
I'm gonna stop distracting myself.
Yeah. We can, at some point in time we'll have to do a Formula One meme review, probably at the end of the season. But
yeah, we could do that.
But,
I think that's kind of bringing it to the end though, because we're going a little long. Anyway, but
yeah,
I mean,
one thing I wanted to mention about Lewis after the incident, and he got back into place pretty quickly. But he was
16. Hey, Mazepin beat him today.
I know, which is both funny and depressing at the same time.
Good job, Mazepin. You beat 7-time world champion.
The only time we will ever say good job to Mazepin.
Yep.
Unless he spins, then of course, good job.
Good job.
But that being said, clearly the Haas is without a doubt the worst car on the grid. I don't think anybody has any question about that. The Haas is the worst car on the grid.
Yep.
Even with that though, Lewis didn't even try to pass him.
You think he just gave up?
I legitimately think he did the same thing as what happened in Monaco. I think he just gave up.
I think it's a little different than Monaco. I know what you're saying. My take is,
but
in both places,
least
yes,
go
he gave up.
For 15th, 14th, 13th. Like, try to get something.
In both
back.
places, I think, yes, he did give up. Whereas in Monaco, though, he gave up because he was being a prima donna and complaining and blah, blah, blah. Here, I think it was more of not complaining and just discouraged and didn't want to try, but, he makes up a position or whatnot. Maybe he can pass the Haas's by the end of the race, and that's it. He's still not in the points. He just talked about a marathon versus a sprint. It's not going to matter. Bottas was already, above him, but not going to finish in the points. Already a bad day, right? So yes, he gave up, but I don't think in the same way or for the same reasons as Monaco.
Yeah, to me, it seemed like...
Not saying it's right. I'm just saying...
Yeah,
no. I'm not as angry at him as I was in Monaco.
I agree with that. Don't get me wrong. I agree with that. I just also think that he had plenty of opportunity. Because literally, I don't know what it was. Maybe Mazepin got shorter during the race or something and just couldn't depress the gas pedal all the way. Or the accelerator all the way. Because he was literally running like half speed. And Lewis had like 6 or 7 chances to just overtake even just that. And he just threw up his hands and he was like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, even so.
Interestingly enough, though, maybe to end the race with everything that happened, and all the analysis, that was the last thing that I found interesting about the race today. As the last thing I think we have to talk about here, which I don't think you've seen, right?
Yeah. I have not, and I was going to after this, but I want you to explain it first, and then I'll go back and actually watch the footage.
There was an incident between the two Haas teammates on the last lap of the race. Mick, are you wondering why Mick was furious at Mazepin to end the race?
So the thing is, I didn't even realize that. I was paying attention to other things. So
Essentially, what happened was on the long straight at the end of the circuit on the last lap, Schumacher used the slipstream to get really close to Mazepin and was going to overtake him and whatnot. He ended up, I think, doing so, but as Mick moved to the right to make the overtake, Mazepin moved in the same direction and basically swerved to the right at like the very end. Something you're not supposed to do, especially to your own teammate when you're going 200 miles an hour. Mick avoided the collision that could have happened and finished the race 0.07 seconds, it says here, ahead in 13th. But he was rightly furious, and I think his expletive and words in his radio message. And he said something like that. His message to the team immediately was, ESPN.com, quote, "What the f was that? Honestly, does he want to kill us?" And when you watch it, you should go and watch it when we're done here recording tonight. And it makes me wonder, why? Mazepin apparently said that after the race to the media, said that he was a sitting duck because he had lost battery power in his car. That's fine. Get out of the way. You can clearly see your teammate coming up behind you if you know where your mirrors are. And why'd you swerve to the right as Mick was going for the take?
a reminder to the listeners out there that this is the quote unquote driver who quote unquote, yes, I quote unquote the driver part, the quote unquote driver who quote unquote really cares about his teammates and other drivers out on the track, end quote.
Definitely seems more of the MO of his driving style that we've seen in F2 and before. So,
which is angry Russian man doing angry things.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure it'll be done and be quickly swept under the rug. But do for the listeners here and Nick as well, go watch it. I think ESPN F1 on their Twitter has it among other places. It makes me wonder, and not in a good way, frankly. No reason for that. That was bold. What Max said the entire after quali shit in his media interviews. So I don't know. It wasn't great to end the race with that, but everything else at the end was great. After the red flag and restart. So
yeah.
Oh, what a day! What a day! What a day! What an episode of this. I think with that, I don't think we have anything else, for this week, save for where we're off for F1 next week, and we'll be doing Nick and I live in person. We'll be recording an episode together, which doesn't happen all the time, given us living different places. But the following weekend, that of the 19th, we have the French Grand Prix. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks of F1 content. So with that, do you have anything else, my friend?
I do not.
All right. That I guess that is the checkered flag on this week. Yeah, wow, what a week it was. What a week and what a race today. So with that, any questions? Let us know, everybody. You know how to reach us at podcast at redlineresorts.com, as well as our handles on social media. We'll be back next week with another episode of the RLR podcast, this time for Nick and I recording in person, which will be a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, and we hope you have a great week. We really do. Stay safe out there with everything that's going on.
Have a good one, everyone.